Me Too movement has happened since the last time I was here. Well, no, it had to happen, Jesus Christ. But, you know, I think it's dying down. You know?
This guy's a clown. All right, let's.
I don't know. I think they got everybody. All right? Yeah, so the stories were big in the beginning, like, oh my God, what a bunch of fucking animals. And then they just started tapering off. And about, I don't know, 6 months in, they just sounded like bad dates. It was like, he was 10 minutes late.
Oh, man. Let me get a quick water. All right. Another few more seconds. This guy, man.
The chicken was cold. I think I was raped. Career over. What about my side of the story? Fuck your side of the story. You have a dick and balls. We don't want to hear it.
Craziest thing about that is he should.
Going out on a date with a guy makes me a slut, then that's just what I'm gonna be.
I don't think going out on a date makes you a slut, but having sex with different men makes you a slut.
Well, what does it make you if you have sex with different women?
Yeah, this guy's out of control, low key.
A slut maker. Oh, wow.
He said a slut maker.
Yeah, this guy
something wrong
truly
with that boy.
has to be crazy. Low key truly has to be crazy.
Yo, he does. He does.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another live podcast. I'm Macho, that's Savory, and you're watching us on Nobody TV. Yeah, some of the things we're talking about the Me Too movement today and its ripple effects, its pros and its cons, and basically our basic understanding of what the Me Too movement is. I have a clip here of the I guess the organizer or the person who started this movement,
Mm.
and I think it's appropriate to start the show with this person before we get into the nobody versus actually excuse me, the mind your business segment so that we all are on the same page, right? Would that be fair?
Perfect.
All right, let's do it.
Sounds good to me.
Ronna Burke, and I'm the founder of the Me Too movement. Me Too is a movement that was founded in 2006 to support survivors of sexual violence, in particular Black and brown girls who were in the program that we were running. It has grown since then to include supporting grown people, women, and men and other survivors, as well as helping people to understand what community action looks like in the fight to end sexual violence. I was working and living in Alabama at the time, and
that's pretty much the premise of it, just to get us all on the same page. It was started by Tarana Burke, or Tyrana, or Tayrana. I'm not sure if
Oh,
I'm
really?
pronouncing that correctly. Tarana Burke started this organization, particularly for the sexual assaults against Black and brown girls.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. Because
Right.
I have a video that talks about. Did you get any info on Alyssa Milano
Oh,
and
uh-oh.
her? So let me
What
play
do we
this. It
got?
aligns.
What
I
do
think
we
it's a
got?
perfect transition so we can kind of see both. But this person in a panel that's called "Has the Me Too Movement Gone Too Far?" Right. So in
Uh-oh.
this panel, she discussed some of these things.
It was founded by Tarana Burke in Selma, Alabama, 2 decades before, to help women who had experienced sexual abuse. But it was the tweet of a Hollywood actress, Alyssa Milano, response to allegations of abuse by Harvey Weinstein, that really hit a nerve. She called on actresses.
So I guess that's perpetrated the movement to a different extent, right? When this tweet went viral, right? So right
She
here.
called on everybody, she called on women to use Me Too as a hashtag, and within a week, 1.7 million times the phrase had been taken up on Twitter, 12
Wow.
million on Facebook within 24 hours. And you don't need me to tell you what.
Yeah, so all that to kind of hit on, part of how you hit on the foundation of it, but it seems like that what kind of took the movement also to the next level. With that, so I'm not sure who started. I think you're saying on your end, she said she started, right? I don't think Alyssa claims she started, so it might be
Oh,
both
it
accurate, I guess, right?
definitely is
Yeah.
Tarana Burke that started it.
Okay.
I guess maybe you had actors who blew it up. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Okay.
Like the Rose
That makes sense.
McGowan, Elisa Milano. Yeah, they blew it up. That's why you know of it. But Tarana Burke was the
Mhm.
one who started this.
Got
But
you.
before
Makes
we
all the
get in
sense.
there, we are on the same page. We're two men, right? We got penises. So we wanted to make sure to our audience that we are aware of the origins of this movement before
Mhm.
we move forward, so that we are talking from that premise and moving on from there. So in this segment of Mind Your Business, we have Condoleezza Rice.
Okay.
And if you are new, I don't know why the screen is set up this way, but if you are new
Yeah, I
to
was gonna rock with
our
it like that. I was like, why
Oh,
not?
that's
Let's see.
fine. It's all good.
Switch it up
If
a
you
little
are
bit.
if you are new to our show, oh, my coffee has made it. Thank you. Special guest appearance.
Hey.
Got my coffee in the building. All right. So if you are new to our show, we usually kick off the show with a mind your business segment. So what we like to do is put something up who's going to make a statement or say something on the topic, and we're going to
Mhm.
vote whether or not that person should mind their business. So this is Condoleezza Rice, and here's what she has to say about this feminist or Me Too movement.
Woman alive who hasn't had somebody say or do something that was inappropriate at best and aggressive at worst. I think that the movement to expose these circumstances is a good thing. Let's clear the air about it. I do think we have to be a little bit careful. Let's not turn women into snowflakes. Let's not infantilize women. And what I really don't want to happen is I don't want it to get to a place that men start to think, well, maybe it's just better not to have women around. I've heard a little bit of that.
Yeah, and
Mm.
that's where I wanted to clip it there, Savory, about the whole. She said that she agrees with it, but she's never really in the previous statement she made. She's been in the workplace. The question was asked: You've been in an environment that's completely dominated by men.
Hmm.
Have you experienced, harassment or sexual assault at the workplace? And she said, only thing I've experienced is inappropriate statements,
Mm.
right? We all make inappropriate statements. I wouldn't attribute that just to being a man. I think that there are times where things get said, but she also said that she supports the movement in its own right, but she doesn't want to turn women into snowflakes. That's simply what she was getting at there.
Okay, okay.
And what do you think about that statement, Savory? Does she have merit to say that?
Yeah, because this is remember, Me Too. A lot of the cases that came up were in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
Condoleezza Rice has a lot of experience when it comes to the workspace and working in different environments, and stuff like that. So for me, when I think of that, I'm like, okay, I think she's giving her honest perspective. And like always, I like what she does. She gives a warning against it possibly going too far. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, like I like that, right? I like that balance. When I think somebody's seeking some kind of balance, I like it. So I think for her expressing that, I think it's sincere. I won't tell her mind her business. I would vote like, yeah, that's good because she's giving the other side of like, okay, it happens. She's not dismissing it, but she's also warning against the dangers of the collateral damage.
Yeah, yeah. I would say for her to not mind her business, and I don't think she. And when we say this and being in agreement with Condoleezza, I don't think that we support what she's saying as a way to discredit what people have experienced.
Yeah, of
I
course
think
not.
what she's saying is we want women to be strong even in the face of adversity, right? Not calling everything this or not saying it
Hmm.
is that, just calling it for what it is. It's inappropriate, right? Or hey, stop doing that, right? I mean, establishing boundaries. It's okay
Yeah.
to do that, which if I look at Condoleezza and how she's conducted herself throughout the years, she looks like she's a woman that has established boundaries, like
Hmm.
strong boundaries. So I don't know, again, I think she has merit to say that, but I'm sure there's something she's missing, Savory, and that is actual things that have happened to people at the workplace, right?
Hmm.
I think that was the whole argument, especially when it came to, and I don't know if it's about just the workplace. I think even Tarana Burke would argue this is mainly about young black and Hispanic girls who are
Yeah.
being,
But the
in
movement took a
inappropriate relationship.
focus on
Yeah,
the workplace from a lot of the cases that I see,
yeah,
and those kind of situations that I guess could be where women could have less power, they don't really speak up there or things like that, which makes sense. And
yeah.
I don't think she was dismissing that, by the way,
No, no,
right?
absolutely not.
And again, I'm sure there's more to that clip, but knowing her, she was probably like very honest on one end with the good that it could bring, but she also always takes it to the other side, which is what I like about her personally. Is like, okay,
Yeah.
let me give you the other side of at least for you to think about the possibility of this causing some collateral damage, And
Yes.
and speaking on collateral damage, I do have a clip that's very interesting as well, where it connects to Me Too become with the title of this Me Too becoming a witch hunt, right? So he hits. I'm not playing on the whole witch hunt stuff right here, but he plays a clip that I think is very interesting.
Stuff. Because Garrison Keillor is a guy who had the Lake Wobegon Chronicles, is this PBS show, this radio shows ongoing for decades, and he's a writer, and he hugged a woman. He was consoling her. He hugged her, and apparently while he was hugging her, his arm went down her back, on her back, and he apologized. She pulled away.
You see, so things like that, like you see, these are simple things that it's like, okay, right? You don't want men walking in fear either, right? And things like that, right? So it's like, so he's shedding light to some of this, right? Just a few more seconds here now.
Yeah, yeah.
Away, he apologized. He sent her a letter. He apologized. You know, he said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that." She says, no worries. Don't worry about it." Years later, when all this Me Too frenzy, she brings this up. He gets fired. They pull his name off the show.
And again, look, years later. So now men have to also be afraid of something, kind of like the cancel culture. Men have to be afraid of something that happened a decade ago, right? Because that last decade, you did something that, you know, it wasn't a big deal at the time. It wasn't addressed. You were maybe in a different stage of your life, or it wasn't even a crime, quote unquote, because, you know, you weren't trialed in court yet and all that. But it leads to what he's
for
talking about
touching
here.
a girl's back. It's like the frenzy was so hot. They didn't want to be accused of not doing anything, so they pulled this guy.
I know.
And, you know, there's the worst side, right? There's the
And this has affected a lot of like celebrities as well, right?
Yeah, but then a lot of celebrities, but look, he's giving an example of the company, right? This is the power of movements, which is why I'm critical of movements when you see my lives and stuff. The reason I'm critical of movements because they have cultural impacts, right?
Yes.
So this movement here, this is a person, right? Who you can imagine just had a 9 to 5, right? We're not talking about a wealthy or famous person from what he's talking about. He talks about it more. But what's dangerous in that clip that Joe Rogan mentions is what? This man was let go because the company, check this, look how big the movement is. The company felt pressure from the media, right? From the movement itself that they had to respond. What is that tells me? Wow, movements, we have to be careful because movements grow to a certain extent that they have a lot of power. So my point in that clip there is like, think about the power that a movement, if we start a movement and we can have an organization respond off that movement, right? Because nobody responds if they don't need to address it. They only respond when it's urgent and they know they're going to have some pushback. If they didn't respond, what was going to happen? That company was going to be dragged through the mud. So they responded and fired him. Whether it was right or wrong, they don't know. There's no court. There was no case, right? There was no evidence that came out. It was just he did it or not. I don't know. I'm not protecting him. I'm just saying that can be a dangerous precedent.
Do you think? Yeah, I agree. But do you think there's merit to this movement? Right. Prior to this movement, was women not being heard? Right. Is that? I wanted to explore that thought process. Were women not being heard? I want everyone who is watching right now, if you want to throw it in the chat, if what your opinion was. Yeah, was women in the past not being heard for their sexual assault? There have been, I'll tell you right now, there's been major cases in the history of America that we can reference to. I mean, there's hundreds of them, but there are major cases we can reference to where women were caught lying. We're caught lying on this.
Yeah.
So it's not like they weren't heard. They were heard and it blew up. It was like a fire. It went crazy. It was like, yo, we need to really start thinking about this. I mean, they even sought legislation on this stuff, right? Crimes against or Violence Against Women Act. They established that years ago. But we had a number of things. So I want to know, before this movement, were women really heard or not? Or was this something that Tarana Burke was just doing just to be an advocate? You know, just simple. It's not like they weren't heard, as we heard through some of these statements. But here's what happens, Xavier. I wanted to play this. Here's what happens when things become a
Macho,
lie.
just to go off what you said, Felicia made a very relevant comment, so I don't want you to move on just yet right here, because she says, I feel like they have always been heard and are always taken seriously. In many ways, I do believe that Me Too movement did expose some of that. So it's not that they didn't need the movement. Again, it was more of, my critique of these movements, where the movement took them, where it's like, okay, now are we now kind of like putting people on trial before a trial? That's my fear. They're putting people on trial before the actual reality of the situation comes out. But again, I don't know the statistics before
and how it could be weaponized.
I don't know of any injustice of that. Them not being heard in court. You know.
I mean, this was even weaponized against the former president. right? So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this becomes a political now. I'm gonna take aim and fire, right? Oh, the previous president is misogynistic. Oh, the previous president did this.
Hmm.
Oh, he raped this or he did that with that person, but totally overlook the indictments brought up against Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I
Facts.
agree or disagree with the previous. I'm just talking about with
Hmm.
the pre. I'm looking at the overarching narrative. But
Yeah,
there's
good
something I
point.
wanted to play here because
Yeah.
he talked about Joe Rogan mentioned who was he talking about? There was someone in celebrity, right?
No, I think he was just saying he was giving a corporate example.
Oh, a court. Okay. I
Yeah, yeah.
want to give a more celebrity example because this
Okay,
is where it
cool.
really took fire, right? Elisa Milano, the Rose
Yep, yep,
McGowans,
yep, yep.
the Harvey Weinsteins, who I think is a scumbag, right?
Hmm.
It's fair to say.
Facts.
He's
Fair to
been
say. No
convicted.
shame in saying
He's
that.
been
Yeah,
convicted. He's been convicted.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think. I'll tell you why I think he's a scum. I think it's a great conversation to have. But let me play this video before we get there.
By the way, we officially in our.
Centoya actually said she was like almost badgering her, like, do you know the type of man that you with? Do you know the type of man that you lay down with every night? Like, and again, she apologized to, again, him, his family, his wife, his mom, his sister, whatever. But my problem is that she didn't apologize to victims that this actually takes place with.
There you go. That's what I
What is
wanted to
she?
play.
What is she
This
talking about? Break that down for us, Machu.
this is about I don't know the celebrity, honestly,
Hmm.
but they were referencing to I guess some kind of celebrity in hip hop culture that this woman was previously with, and then said that that person was actually a rapist, Freddie Gibbs or something. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%, but
Okay,
I
okay.
because even they were mentioning names, Savory, and I was just like, I don't
Hmm.
know
Hmm.
these people. I don't
Gotcha. Okay,
follow hip
okay.
hop culture that deeply,
Yeah.
but apparently he's a celebrity, and the woman that he was once married to made these allegations that he raped her or he did these kind
Mm.
of sexual assault, and then saying you don't know what kind of, and then now the new woman he's with, you don't know what kind of, she was insinuating that, and then went on to apologize and said that she was lying. What she's saying
Mm.
here is, okay, you said sorry, but what about saying sorry to the people who actually go through this? You're invalidating them, right? There are real stories in society
So
that now
she
gives them a bad
wanted
rep.
that person to say sorry to the other victims that's unrelated to the situation at hand right there, right?
Well, no, yeah, yeah, rational think. Yes, yes,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
wording it. I know I'm wording it in a way that sounds like I
No,
really was trying to make sense
it
of it.
is irrational to just simply apologize to people you did that wasn't in the situation. But the example of you weaponizing this to discredit or ruin the integrity of somebody else invalidates other people's real life experiences.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know
But
what I'm
then,
saying?
I think this is where I think she took it to the point of wanting an apology for, or you see, but this is what movements do, right?
Yeah,
They have a standard that they're able to put across the board with no accountability, right? Only a movement
very
has the
good point.
power to do it like that, right? Where me and you can go through something, and because we're part of this strong movement, we're putting pressure not only on a particular case and the evidence before us, but we're like, no, how about the other people in this movement? We all got to get right. So it becomes
Yeah,
this kind
yeah.
of group tank and entitlement to these things.
And
And I.
it becomes dangerous. Again, it's like I get it as in that forum,
Mhm.
apologizing to the people wouldn't really affect them, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's where a rational thing. I understood it to be a great talking point in that segment is to say, hey, this is important when you are weaponizing sexual assault.
Mm.
Remember, there are
Mhm.
people out there that have gone through this and are fighting their cases. So if you come out and turn out that you lied, you're making it harder for them. You
Agreed,
know what I'm saying?
agreed. And I
It's
think
already
that's in an
tough to
area
prove
that
it.
Me Too movement probably wasn't helping, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm not saying it happened more that women were lying. I don't know, right? I don't know. But even if it didn't happen more, there's more spotlight on these situations. So the good and the bad comes out. So when women were lying before, we weren't
Yes.
hearing it left and right. Now that you're hearing it, you
We
have to
were.
be careful. We were hearing it. So now that we
Yeah,
were
we
hearing it,
were
we got to
hearing
be
it.
careful because everybody's listening, everybody's watching now. So and that's why which is unfair to the movement, right? To the
I think
movement's
it.
defense, is unfair to paint the entire movement because we hear something, but again, they're more in the spotlight, so they got to be
I think
very
it's
careful.
perverted her. I think it's perverted the original person's movement. I think it's definitely been hijacked, right? Her movement was
Mm.
primarily to young girls, right?
Oh,
And then it
really?
got
Okay, okay, that's the
hijacked.
history. Yeah, yeah.
It got hijacked again. Yes, a lot of young black women and black and brown women in this country are taken advantage of because of. I've seen articles, economic, socioeconomic climate. Some of them run away from home. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of statistics with that. That I think Tarana Burke is onto something. I thought she was onto something. Yes, be mindful of that. The sex trafficking. A lot of young black girls are victims of sex trafficking, and I've been looking up this. I want to actually preserve this as a future topic, which I'm preparing for now,
Mm-hmm.
about the sex trade, about sex trafficking, about what's going on in our world, what's going on in our country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's on to something. She opened the door to that, but it got hijacked, is what we're trying to say. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden now it's become this weird discussion. Well, women didn't have this back then. What are you talking about? They did. They had an
Yeah.
ear. They were Emmett Till was a prime example. I wrote in our notes. Emmett Till was killed off a false allegation. He apparently whistled 1945
Mm-hmm.
in the South. He's from Chicago. He went down to the South to see his family, and apparently he talked and he had like some form of a lisp that sound like a whistle. And apparently they said that he whistled at a white woman, and the woman tells the white guys, "Hey, he whistled at me." Or he made a pass or
Uh,
made an advance at me. She
yeah.
lied. She was racist. The guys were, this was Jim Crow South at the time, right?
Yeah.
So she used it, she weaponized it, and those guys in turn brutally, not only brutally like murdered him, they brutally murdered him. They destroyed his body, couldn't even recognize him. The mother of Emmett Till
That's
wanted the casket.
crazy.
She wanted the casket open just so the world can see how vile of a crime this was off a false allegation.
That and then again, that
She later
comes.
admitted it. She later admitted it. I lied.
That's you see, like stuff
You
like
know?
that is crazy. And going into the line, let me ask you this: do you think there's any, like, I think the lines are blurred. I guess my question is there any clarity to what is, let's say, in the workplace considered a Me Too sexual assault situation, right? Is it touching a certain way? This is where it gets difficult. Where do we
Yes.
draw the
Yeah.
line to these rules, right? Because under the law, right, and Felicia said a little earlier, yeah, we were taking people to trial. We were doing it that way, and we're still doing that with the Me Too. The difference is now you got
Yes.
public shaming, right? You got a verdict before the trial or court starts,
Public shaming.
and
Oh my
yeah,
God.
so I think it's a big deal. I want to place and connect it to that a few seconds here
Oh,
before yours.
I
Yeah.
love what you're saying about the public shaming too. Listen, Harvey Weinstein, in my opinion, I wanted to get back to that point. Harvey Weinstein is a scumbag on other areas other than the crimes he was actually convicted of. Let me tell
Hmm.
you how bad he was. My fiance told me this. The reason why he got jammed up was because when Rose McGowan wanted to write her experience with him in her book, he sent over lawyers, started harassing her, started tapping her phone, started, sending people to bully her, spy on her, all types of things to not get the book published.
Hmm.
Right. So
Wow.
you got to understand, lawyers went to jail as a result of this. He was indicted on crimes that had there was some sexual assault, but a lot of it was about some of the other things that he got involved with spying. You can't spy on other people. You can't
Yeah, yeah.
use and
Well, that
pay
was
a
all to
lawyer.
protect the bigger picture, his crime, right? He was trying to
Yeah,
hide his
it
crime from
probably
this.
would have been, in all fairness, it probably would have been one of those like he said, she said.
Yeah.
But instead, by him doing all of that, gave this thing credibility, which is further substantiated in my
Yeah.
heart.
But I
He's a
think they had
scumbag. He's a
evidence even
dirty
beyond that.
scumbag.
But yeah, that man, I'm with you on that.
Well,
Yeah.
there
So
was a lot of variables that didn't make sense with the women that came forward. I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm saying he's a scumbag because of how he operated with Rose McGowan. That is that
Got you.
shows me
Yeah.
culpability. You did what you did to her because you
Mhm.
really, out of all the women, he focused on her. You get
Yeah,
what I'm
to
trying
make
to
sure it
say?
has. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
something tangible there. Yeah. So
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
about the rules, right? And like, is there any rules? This is an interesting clip I'm gonna play here because
Yeah.
it kind of describes like, or not really describes, but hints towards. All right, guys, what's the rules here? Are we just supposed to
Rules of
relationally
engagement.
act different? What's the rules of engagement here? Am I walking on eggshells? Am I doing things differently? So let's take a look at this.
Divorce sexuality from emotion. You also can't divorce it from responsibility. You can't divorce it from family. You can't divorce it from respect. You can't divorce it from children. Like, it's so central. You can't divorce it from power. You can't divorce it from tyranny or love. Like, it's central, and it involves all those other things. And so there are rules. The question is, what are the rules? And the
question is, what are the rules, right? And the answer is
no one knows. So there's going to be
you see, and the answer is no one knows, right? So people act a certain way because the
You
rules are
people. You can't say
specific.
you people.
Huh? What?
You can't say you people.
You people.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. People
So
in the
no. So
workplace act a certain
yeah.
way.
So he's saying, so right here, just keep part right here, right? I'm gonna just go back a little so people, the audience can see it again. Look.
other things. And so there are rules. The question is, what are the rules? And the answer is, no one knows. So there's
what's the word I'm looking for?
Ambiguity. It's ambiguity.
Ambiguity around it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Ambiguity around the situations where it's almost like, okay, if this is happening to men around me, I'm going to be very careful with how I interact. I'm going to be very careful with how I move in the workplace, with how I engage. Like, these movements sometimes hurt, and we spoke about this, and I was mentioning in the live, hurt the very people, and you mentioned, I think, as well, the very people they're trying to help.
Yes.
They hurt those very people. So now,
It
when men
alienates
acting
them at some
differently,
point.
are they, because now women are kind of like, all right, men are acting a bit different in the workplace because everybody's being extra careful, especially, right? I'm not saying this was in every industry, but I can tell you what industry it was big in: corporate environment. Corporate
It
environment was
blew
a
up.
real fear that men
Corporate,
had. Like, I'm there.
college
Yeah.
environments. Yeah, it blew up.
You see, it's a
It
real
blew up.
thing where, again, I'm not saying it happened everywhere, but in certain spaces like the corporate environment, universities, like you mentioned, stuff like that, men were acting differently because they didn't want to engage or risk themselves being in a situation, not only through public shaming, but even through shaming at a peer level, right? Through your friends
Yeah.
or something. How everything was so sensitive. I don't think that's a good idea for our society.
I would
in that
say
clip,
I would say I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater because I think
Yeah.
we need some kind of liability areas. But I understand the sentiment of what you're talking about because they're built on facts that are myths. They're myths. They don't. And
Yeah.
we're gonna bring on this person that talks about this stuff. She actually studied this stuff
And
and she said some. And I'm gonna cover it from the college
cool.
avenue.
And Macho, you're
Yeah.
playing that clip next. But the question to ask, right? The honest question for us personally to look into and other people is, like you asked before, what was the situation before, right? And then Felicia mentioned, what was it? Was it really broken, right? It's a
Were
difference
they not
between
heard? Were they not
yeah,
heard?
were they not
Yeah.
heard? Was the system broken towards them? Because if not, it's
People died.
nothing ever wrong in bringing awareness to it. But
People
it's
died
something
over
wrong, and
this.
now, yeah.
I'm
Again,
talking
so again,
about Savory. People got the death penalty for sexual
for
assaults.
it, you see. So again, this
You
is
know?
not nothing to play around with when we have a system that, again, no system has worked perfectly. But the question is, was it worth bringing this on? Because I can imagine with that spotlight, it has a lot of power, right? So,
And
anyways,
there
let's
was
go.
that infamous case, and this is where like the system, the legal system in the South was prejudiced towards black men, especially black men who were accused of sexually assaulting white women. There was a big case in the South. I think it was in Georgia, and I think it was like in the early 1940s, 50s. I think it was around there. And I could be totally wrong. Anyone in the comments, please throw that in there. But there was a relation. It was consensual. A black man and a white woman were having sex, but the problem is that white woman was married, so they would meet at a hotel. They would do things, whatever. Anyways, the husband found out, and turns out she was. He beats the crap out of her. I mean, beats the mess out of her. She was pregnant. She lost a child. Okay. And then he made her go to the authorities and say that that black man did it. And then that black man ultimately was put to death for that because
So
of the
Macho,
death of the yeah, go ahead.
before this transition screen into this video we're playing, all right, Michigan said, this is, we'll make this quick. He'd be cool with the death penalty for sexual assault. How do you feel about that in quick words?
Um
Do you think it's ever
no.
accepted or?
I don't know. The death penalty is tough. I think we should cover this in a podcast
Yeah, death
about the
penalty
death
will be another
penalty.
one. I know that's a tough one, but all right, let's hit that.
Michigan, I wanted to say, Michigan, thanks
go
for
ahead.
joining because we just met this person on TikTok. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah. He was in my live, I think, before today as well. So appreciate you, man.
And
Appreciate
he
you
said
joining, though.
he's slightly biased. He dealt with it personally. Wow. I definitely, we
okay.
definitely, hey,
Mm.
Michigan, we definitely want to
Yeah.
talk about this in a
Yeah.
podcast. It's a tough topic, and we have to do a little bit more research on it. But yeah, this is a person who is talking about the sexual assault claim in the beginning portion of this, Avery, and we have to bear with this video. We have to cut in and out of it because we don't
Cool.
want to get hit with copyright, right? Copyright. But
Facts.
yeah, she's talking about like how many sexual assault cases are there
Mhm.
in college campuses, and we're gonna expound on that right quick. And I have a personal story as well to go with this.
In a rape culture, but we do inhabit a culture saturated with gender propaganda. Call it a misinformation culture.
Oh, I know who this is.
And nowhere is the misinformation more rampant than in the area of sexual assault. Coming up next on The Factual Feminist, the two biggest myths about sexual violence.
Okay, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to bring this up.
I like
because
this
I thought
transition. Okay.
this would be great for us to talk to hear her out, hear her. Like, I don't know if I agree with her all the way, but I think she makes some great points here, and I wanna cover this.
Myth number 1. 1 in 5 college women are raped or sexually assaulted. This claim has been repeated over and over by journalists,
yeah,
political
I know that's a
leaders.
myth.
It's
I
been
got
said so many
paper on that
times it's
already.
almost beyond the reach of rational analysis. Well, as I and many others have said, the figure is wrong, and now there's new data just released last month from the U.S.
And before we get into this, I personally work in a university. There is an enormous amount of documentation about these interactions. That is why she can make these claims. I'm talking about there's a thing called Title IX, right? That colleges and universities have to abide by. So there's a enormous amount of documentation. I'm talking about it could be a stack of
Yeah.
information about just one interaction, right? The investigative process is so thorough, especially if you're receiving federal funding.
Bureau of Justice Statistics that gives us a much more reliable estimate. The 1 in 5 claim is based on a 2007 internet study with vaguely worded questions, a low response rate, and a non-representative sample. And other studies with similar findings have used the same faulty methods. The real number, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, is 1 in 53. That's too many,
you see, but
it's a long
come
way
on,
from 1 in 5.
Come on. The thing is, it bothers me. It bothers me when you're that off with statistics. It bothers me. Don't publish
That's pretty
something
far, yeah.
because 1 in 5 and 1 in 52, right? And now
Yeah.
it's like, okay, and you chose a study from a specific year with specific questions and probably not a valid case study when it comes to who you did it with. It's so many unknowns. This is why statistics could be very reliable on one end and not reliable at all in the other end, because most statistics are now taken through some form of agenda to push something forward, right? For example, in the Senate floor, right? If you're fighting for something, what statistic would you use if you're fighting for legislation for sexual assault victims? You're using the 1 in 5, right?
Oh yeah,
But if you
without
want
a
to
doubt.
disprove it, you're using the other, but it's because there's no really a standard, right? Unless you go deeper into it, and the people, which is us, actually go and dig in. But
Well,
that's bothersome to me. That's a
there's
wide
no
gap.
rules or regulation on how to propose stacks,
Yeah,
right? So yeah, there's no punitive
there's no
damage.
minimal standard. Yeah.
Yeah, so you could use stats to wield your
Mhm.
premise or your argument at any cost or at any level in society.
But is
I
it
would say,
fair? Is it fair to say some stats are not accurate, Macho? I jumped really quick. I'm just for
well,
because
we
1 in 5 is
say
clearly not accurate. 1 in 52 would be more accurate to the reality when you're actually
it depends on the school, right? It could be disingenuous, and it could be like, all right,
I
one in
doubt any
five.
school has a 1 in 5 though. But
Well,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
let's say this Central Michigan, it could be one in
Yeah.
five there, or let's say I hope I don't get hit with any defamation. I'm just using schools as an example. But you have a school in
Mhm.
Alabama. Let me not even name schools. You have a school in California. They could have a 1 in 5 rate in a 6 month time frame, but they're being disingenuous because now if you open up the years, 5 years, 10 years, you realize it's not that 1 in 5
Mhm.
rate, right? So they probably got that 1 in 5 rate from something. Could have been a month, could have been 6 months, could have been just one bad year. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? There are a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
for
things
sure.
to
Yeah.
consider there. Here we go.
Now, does that mean that sexual assault's not a problem on campus? Of course not. Too many women are victimized. But it's not an epidemic, and it's not a culture. An exaggeration and hysteria, they shed no light, they produce no solutions. They actually distract from a real problem. Myth 2. Women almost never lie about rape. No more than 2%
Oh,
of rape charges turn out to be true.
Before we get there,
Michigan, Michigan. If you
before we get
send
there.
your child
But
to a
that was a
school with
great point.
one,
I want to highlight this. I want to highlight this.
oh man,
All
if
right.
you send your
There's a lot of merit to this response here. Okay. Not only is he right,
yeah.
but he's also highlighting a point that a lot of people are missing. And that is when you are sending a child to a school because of the Jane Cleary Act, right? Jane
Mhm.
Cleary is a case that happened in the 70s in Lehigh University. I can cite that because that's actual case where a woman was sexually assaulted in her room, and I also believe she was murdered because someone propped the door open like with a pizza box in the university dorm, and so
Hmm.
somebody just walked in, was able to check doors, and her door happened to be open. But the problem was what this opened the door to was that how many times did this happen? This happened often. You know what I'm saying? So why wasn't the parent aware of this?
Mm.
So the Gene Cleary Act instructed that anyone who is receiving federal funding from the feds, right, has to now make a notification or has to document this in some
I gotta
kind of stat.
disclose that.
They have to disclose it to the public. So when you're thinking about sending your kid to a school, university, or whatever, look at their crime stats. Look at what they are putting up there because it'll give you insight how to prepare your child or to tell your child you're not going there because we're not sending your ass there.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So yeah,
Which is fair.
but before we get into that next part, Savory, I wanted to talk about one thing. There's a
Yeah, yeah.
lot of times where sexual assault is alleged but never confirmed.
Hmm.
Let me explain what that means. Sometimes somebody will come up to you, whatever administrator you are, whatever level you work in the college or university, and they will say, "Hey, I think this happened." And it's the
Mm.
administrator's responsibility to not only make the notification, make the alert, but also have to document exactly what that person says. No words put in their mouth. You have to actually document
Mm.
exactly word for word. And this happened, and this happened, and this happened, right? None of it is like no leading questions, no nothing. You just have to actually document it verbatim. Then that gets sent to people who look at this stuff and they make the identification. Is this sexual assault? Does it fit the bill for it to be sexual assault, or is it just harassment? So there are a
Mm.
lot of times where it gets alleged, but it's not confirmed because it doesn't pass through that criteria that is set in these universities or in
Got
these
you.
colleges. And it's
Thanks
not
for giving that
disingenuous.
overview from your
They
from your
have to do
experience. I
that.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
They have to make so a lot of times it gets alleged, but it's never and there are times where they don't say anything. People don't say anything, right? So We have to be fair in seeing that side of it too. The other part of the story here, Sari, I want to put out there. My friend went to a school which I won't name for defamation reasons. Went to a school that apparently this girl said, "Okay, I want to make some money." I'm dead serious. I'm not even lying to you. She said, "I want to make some money." All right. So she was willing to sell herself on a college campus to sell herself to make some money, right? She says, so long as you keep the lights off and I don't know what's going on, and you just collect at the front door, we're good to go. I'm dead serious. This actually happened.
So this was a student?
These are all students. First of all, this is highly illegal. This is highly illegal. You cannot do this on a campus, on a college campus.
So one of the students in the campus, to make extra money, sold herself.
She sold herself in a dorm room. Yes. And she said, as long as the lights are off and I don't see who's up next and everyone's wearing condom, I'm good to go. Right? Someone turns the lights on, so she runs out and claims sexual assault. This opened a massive can of worms. A massive can of worms. First off, it's highly illegal what they were doing in the first place. So now you have all these accounts of people revealing what her intentions were. So that made her more and more embarrassed, and it shamed her and it alienated her. And, I hope she's okay. I don't, I wasn't involved in this. I'm just saying my friend told me this story. My friend was involved in this, right? So that's why he knows about it. So he's telling me about it. And I'm just like, what the hell? How can you claim sexual assault if you're the one who wanted this? Just because now you feel ashamed that you actually see the result of
of course. This is why she wanted to keep the lights off, right? To keep stuff in the dark. An analogy of what really happened. Things came to light. She didn't like it. Things came to light in literal ways. Not only the literal light, but what she was doing came to light.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to get to that next segment too. I see you got a video. Do you want to run that?
No, you were gonna play the second part. I don't think she finished the second part. Were you
Oh
gonna play
man,
that?
it's gonna open a can of worms. You ready?
Yeah. Which
I don't know
I'll
if you're
skip one
ready.
video. We'll just do my last one.
All right,
Skip one. We good. Let's
do
go.
False. Rape crisis activists often urge us dogmatically, believe women, always believe what women say. Now, they do this for a reason. They're reacting to a long history where victims were routinely disbelieved and blamed because of their choice of clothing or their sexual history. But the answer to bad old practices is not bad new practices, as Kathy Young has noted in an excellent discussion in Slate. The myth of the lying woman has been replaced by the myth of the woman who never lies. Well,
there it is. Let's leave that up there.
That's the
I want to leave that
punchline
up there. The myth of a lying woman has been replaced by the myth that a woman who never lies. Now you have to believe her because she said it.
Yeah.
That's what she's
so they
saying.
went from one extreme to another. So it was all right.
Yeah.
The woman, a lot of women are lying out here, which that's bad too. But then you go to the other extreme. Is no woman is lying. Every woman is saying the truth. You get yourself, and I think it's a beautiful transition to what I'm gonna play. So it worked out well as well. So
yeah, let's see what you got.
This is interesting. Just a quick thought on that before my next video. I don't want to rush. So that was a great point there. So this is the power that again, to give another example of these movements, right? they're able to make such claims and run with it because of the support of many people. So now if everybody's saying believe all women, it has credibility because people are kind of pushing that narrative forward. And again, what's happening? It's just setting a different precedence where, like she said, I think her wording was, you replace a bad practice with a new bad practice.
Even
Right?
probably
So
more nefarious, more nefarious practice. I mean, it's crazy.
Which I think is a lot of danger in that. Yeah, but let's play this next clip.
overarching one way is the highway perspective. When you have these figureheads that are saying 81% of the population that is a woman is going to be sexually assaulted in her lifetime, and not breaking down what that means, that's huge. And then you have young people who are being influenced by that. So no, it's like intellectually dishonest to run with something like that. And the worst part is, sorry Blair, all we ever talk about is women. I am so sick of hearing about women. I hate the fact that women are.
I think this is interesting because we're hearing a woman, right, push against the Me Too movement in a articulate way to her concerns. She's not a woman hating. She cares about sexual assault. She's just giving you a different perspective.
They experience this, but how about we talk about what men go through for a hot second? Because I will tell you now, it will probably be in the same frequency. Men are raped in the home at the same frequency by women as women.
You're totally right, and it was one of the big
You
failures.
see, I haven't seen those statistics,
I
so I
haven't
don't know
either.
if it's true. But again, I don't know because I haven't heard those. I haven't heard anything about that at all. So I know that it's not. I know that it's not non-existent, right? I know it exists. To what extent, I don't know. So I just thought this was interesting and really quick here. Just
I had something to throw in there.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it.
What men who are raped by women, isn't it different though? Isn't it more like that grooming area? Because men groom women, young women as well. So because women are not forceful with men, like they can't strap them down, and you can't just get an erection out of it, right? So like, how do women rape men? I think it's more like men raping men, right? Men who rape
Yeah, I think
men.
that's more common. I wouldn't argue that. That's probably definitely
But,
more common.
but
yeah.
definitely there has been, like, Richard Pryor was raped by a woman, right? But she coerced him. She was like, "Yo, like, you know what I'm saying? Like his aunt or something like that. He like they had a consensual sexual relationship. So I think that is still considered rape because of the age paradigm, right? So it's called statutory rape, right? It's usually non-violent. It's grooming. It's a grooming way of raping someone. It's coercing them to say, "Hey, this is great. This is good," right? And the Me Too movement, Tarana Brawley, also exposes that, right? She said when she gave an example was that when a young girl came to her, she was 13 years old, and she casually said, "Yeah, my boyfriend's 21." That's rape.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You cannot know.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we dismissed that. Yeah.
So I think initially she had a great starting point, but it's been hijacked. Absolutely. So
A lot what happens in these movements for sure.
and I wanted to just end this segment with this, Avery. I shared this article with you.
Let's do it.
Is that 12 women? There's an article here. 12 women, and you can share this in the chat. 12 women who lied about being raped and why they did it. So just to list off some of the names: Nicola Osborne, Elizabeth Coast, Roseanne England, Kelly Harwood, Lynette Lee, Rihanna Booker, Catherine Barnett, and they go on and on of these women on not only why they said that they were raped, but then they also said why they lied. I guess why they got caught. When they got caught that they were lying, they expressed, and this is an interesting article as I was reading here. Let's just go with the first example, right? Women lie about rape to cover up their infidelity. Check this out. One night, Nicola Osborne got a bit drunk and ended up in bed with a man, and they enjoyed extensive sexual activity. I don't know why they have to put extensive, but they put it in quotation. The episode was entirely consensual, and the two swapped phone numbers after they were through. On the way home, it occurred to Osborne that her husband might not think very highly of her activities, and she became flustered and visibly upset. When passerby came to her aid, she told them that she had been forcibly abducted and raped by a stranger. So, just one example. That's the first example there that we have. Yeah, I see that you shared it. Very good. Please, guys, read that. That's an interesting read of how that is detrimental to the voices out there that have actually experienced this stuff. First off, it's very hard to convict somebody off of rape because it's a he said, she said without rape kits, right? Rape kit is actual evidence that could now be argued in court. So it's really difficult for that. And that could be the unheard argument that women may have said. But I have video
Yeah.
clips here. I'm not going to play it because of time, but I have video clips here of how major cases of young ladies, like the Tawana Broadley case, where Al Sharpton, when he was big, Al Sharpton was going around saying there needs to be justice for black women. They always get overlooked because they get raped and it doesn't matter. Only it matters when a white girl is raped and then everybody cares. Well, it turns out Tawana Broadley was lying.
Yeah, you see, that's why we
So he
can't
jumped
jump
out of
on
the
all
you
these
know what I'm
things.
saying? Then he made it a racial thing. And then all of a sudden find out Tawana Broadley. If you guys don't know, check out Tawana Broadley and how that became crazy. You've had instances where women lied about being raped on a college campus, and then because they got caught lying, they went to jail for it. Right? So these are really serious stuff. And I think it goes down to this. And let me add my personal part to this. The lack of fathers in girls' lives. Fathers who love women genuinely, who love their daughters genuinely, not in a perverted way, but literally looks at them and says, "Look, men ought to be like this in your life. Men should respect this in your life." And
showing the
I
example at home goes
show the
huge way. It
example.
changes
It's
a woman's life.
huge. Lack of fathers in the home, lack of protection, lack of oversight. What is it? Don't forget to like before leaving. Yeah, thank you, Felicia. Appreciate
Oh,
it.
thank you, Felicia. Yeah, like that. Algorithm
Lack of,
helps us
I mean, we
subscribe. I
need
appreciate it.
we need women who are having children with these men. Try to work it out with your partner, right? Try to work it out with them at all costs. There are services out there if you're having relational issues, obviously barring physical abuse. Try to work it out with these partners. Try to work it out with these men because your kids need you guys intact. They need you guys to be healthy. They need you guys to be whole, right? I don't like this whole BS excuse. Well, we're better apart. No, you're not better apart. You made this child together. Now raise this child together and raise this child in the same home, right? Barring physical abuse, which I've even seen people overcome physical abuse. I've even seen people overcome infidelity. Try to go to counseling. Utilize that. Go take your relationship serious and commit through what is it that you say in the vows? For better or for worse. Right? You're here through thickness, you know what I'm saying? So we need more of that because a lot of young women are
It's a good word, man.
about these relational guidelines. Yeah, go ahead.
And on that note, man, that's a good encouragement for people. Now, I guess I'm going to take it the other direction. And I just looked this up. I switched it up because this came to mind, right? So let's hit our final section here. So this article is named "A Second Silent Pandemic." All right. So this is something media didn't really speak about. This is something many people didn't highlight. This is something that wasn't really at the forefront, which is the increase of sexual violence in the time of lockdowns and COVID-19. All right. So really quick right here, we have governments around the world failed to prepare for the uptick in violence as a result of the public health measures taken after COVID-19. There were a surge in calls, 18% more calls in the first 2 weeks of the lockdown, 30% more in domestic violence, right? National Alliance to End Sexual Violence says that close to 40% of the rape crises surveyed had been increased. Demand for services increased since the outbreak. Interestingly, some hospitals are performing fewer sexual assault forensic exams. 24 forensic exams in March of this year. That's an increase of 43%, right? More likely, furthermore, studies show that abusers are more likely to murder partners in the wake of personal crisis, including lost jobs, major financial setbacks, with more than 30 million Americans now out of work. Swift and decisive efforts need to be implemented to protect victims of the second silent pandemic. We love to end on the good note always, but we also wanted to give people a reality check of the facts in this world, right? So I know, Macho's word right now was a very good word for us to take an account, like the encouragement. But this is something not as a discouragement, but for us to be aware of, right? These things are happen, and things like a lockdown affected some of that. Anyways, as we close out, ladies and gentlemen, this is where you can follow us. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram. Our handles are right there. Macho's going through them. We got Drinks with a Nobody. Discord is also Drinks with a Nobody. YouTube channel, if you're on here right now, like Felicia, thank you for looking out. Hit that like button for us. Just takes 1 second of your time. Help us with the algorithm. Also, subscribe if you're feeling this podcast. Hopefully you are. You continue to go with us.
Share it, please.
And share it. Yeah, definitely. And share it as we continue to.
We want to have people have
move forward
this
here.
conversation, like center around a circle, and consider us your virtual bartenders. And we're just throwing. Hey, let's have a conversation around a drink. I got coffee today. I don't know what you were drinking today. You
I
have
got lemonade today. Simple. I kept
What?
it simple today, actually. Yeah,
Simple?
I kept it simple. Usually I jump out the window with it, but I'm simple with it today.
This guy
yeah.
usually has weird drinks. Anyways, tune in tomorrow. We are talking about the BLM movement. It is fitting to wrap the week up with that. You don't want to miss out.
We are coming in high. You don't want to miss that. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the subscription. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the support. Thank you for all that. Later.
Cheers.